Hi, so it's just me and this small dog, Margot. Hello, small dog Margot. Do you want to be on Instagram? There you are. I don't really know what to do with a small dog. I'm not really ever been a small dog owner, but my friend brought her dog over, and so here it is. Say hi. Anyway, back to the normal programming. Yesterday I posted the video, the 5 handstand entry challenge, which I thought was an interesting way to test stamina. And so I did, and I've been spending a lot of time the last year and a half fixing my wrist because I broke this wrist, I tore ligaments in my thumb and various sporting things, and because of not so great medical care back in my college days, which were very recent, you can be assured, this bone was going over there. And so that bone had to be stopped from going over there, and in the healing process from surgery, I had to figure out how to improve the range of motion in my wrist without overstraining or irritating the joint. And the irony of that is that the way that you not overstrain a joint is by being in really clean joint space. But if the soft tissue is limiting the range of motion to a degree where it hurts in the joint, then a prop can be really useful. And my view in props in practice is that props are really there to help you rise, not something to lean against, to put you in a cleaner joint space rather than some kind of like slumpy position. So I'm going to show you a really simple way that I used to stretch my wrists when I was recovering from this surgery, and I still do this, especially if my wrists get a little tender or sore. So if you can see, the edge of this carpet is elevated just under an inch. So all I do is I put the edge of my palm on the edge of this carpet so that my wrist is on a downhill slope, and then what I get is a really nice stretch in my forearm, but I'm in such a clean fold because the elevation has allowed me to work more into the soft tissue that there's no wrist pain. Now, if you go into a position like this and you feel still that there's like a little bit of sensitivity on this side of the wrist, I encourage you to push down with your fingers and your knuckles, and that will make it an active stretch in your forearms. Also, a few things about body positioning that will help for this stretch. One is, don't allow your shoulders to sink or collapse. Push into the ground. Just think that anytime that you push into something, it helps you to make space. Right, Margot? Margot's not really that interested. I think there's food happening over there, so Margot's more interested in that. So push down, and then also, instead of your shoulders being here, feel for broadening your chest and collarbones. The feeling is almost that the muscles here in your armpit are sort of grabbing your tricep and pulling your arm into external rotation, because as your collarbone area broadens, your wrist joint will also be able to find more range of motion. The wrist sort of represents a small manifestation of whatever's going on in the collarbone. That's why people who have really a lot of chest tension tend to overstrain the wrist. So as you're here stretching, you have sort of two options. You can have a very light push with your fingertips and knuckles. Inhale for about 3 to 4 counts and exhale for somewhere between 6 and 8 counts all through your nose. That long exhalation helps to activate the part of the autonomic nervous system that tells you it's okay to do this kind of stretching. Another option, especially for those of you that might lean into this and immediately feel pain, closing angle pain on this side of your wrist, is to push down with your fingertips and knuckles, like the whole time. And a third option would be to push down with your fingertips, knuckles, thumb, everything, and do that for 10 seconds, and then inhale and make some tension in your body and try to lift your fingers off the ground while continuing to push your palms and knuckles into the ground. So those are different options. You can try all of them, but then one thing that will be important is to pick the one that you want to do and do it for a while, like at least 2 minutes, so that you really feel that the intensity of the stretch ramps up without you having to ramp up too much the intensity. Sometimes just duration can be a really great augmenter of a stretch without having to go super crazy. And then, of course, this elevated piece is really what I wanted to talk about. And you can apply that same concept to other things in your practice. Give yourself a little bit of elevation to be in a cleaner joint space. Now, if you know that you have super flexible wrists, but you still have wrist pain when you put your body weight on your hands, then likely for you it's more of a strength issue than a range of motion issue. Like you can see for me, that's about my my max safe forward lean into my wrist. So for me, it's not really a strength issue so much in the wrist, it's more a range of motion issue. But for some of you, you might be able to lean way forward without pain, but then when you bear your full body weight on your hands, you start to get pain in here. So what I recommend for that is two different things. The first is the pail and rail concept from functional range conditioning, where you simply put your weight in your hands, push down with your knuckles, and then just practice pressing thumb, knuckle, and fingertips into the ground, especially the finger knuckles, these ones. I guess those are hand knuckles. Push those into the ground as hard as you can, slowly ramping up to your hardest effort. And then after about 10 seconds, try to lift your fingers off the ground without losing the pressure of your hand knuckles into the ground. And if you do that for 2 minutes, what you'll find is you'll learn how to better weight your knuckles. And sometimes, if it's a strength deficiency, simply spending more time in a static isometric push will train your body how to load and bear weight. So it's like a little bit of a backup to then go forwards. And then a build from the lean forward into your knuckles, push with your fingers, and try to lift your fingers 2-minute drill would be the first knuckle raises or wrist flexion push-ups, which are popular amongst hand balancers. What I want to stress about the previous exercise is I don't want you to lean forward without pushing into your knuckles and fingers. That's really the point of the drill. So for the wrist knuckle raise, the wrist knuckle push-ups are first. Wow, that's hard to say. That's really that's a tongue twister. Say wrist knuckle raises 39 times, and then start the video again. What I really mean are first knuckle raises or wrist flexion push-ups. So for those, you'll want to start, if you've never done these before, with your knees close to your hands. Push into the ground with your knuckles. Protract your shoulders without rounding your back. What that means is just push the floor away as hard as you can, and then grab again your shoulders with your back muscles so that your triceps roll towards your back. You just lean forward, push with your knuckles, and lift up your palms. And then slowly bring down your palms to the count of 3. And then again, push with your knuckles to lift your palms. Bring your palms down slowly to the count of 3. So for these, you need to moderate the load of your body on your hands by bringing your knees close to your hands so that you can keep the reps really clean. And what I mean by that is that what needs to not happen is, I'll just keep crawling around awkwardly. What needs to not happen is that you do this sort of like 1-2 spazzy thing. It should be a very even lift and a very slow descent to the point that you could pause at any point of the descent and still maintain control. So I hope that those wrist drills are useful for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And I think ultimately what's really important is that if you have parts of your body that feel like they're calling out for more care and attention from you, then it's important to pay attention to that and give those parts of your body that time and care that they're asking for. It's a fine balance between rest and also getting really good technique that helps you to move forward. And I think this little elevated piece under the palm will be really useful to some of you guys or to some of your students who are having trouble load bearing on their hands.